Hey guys, look at this image very carefully because this might be one of the most important maps of this crypto cycle. It's called the big winners of US crypto policy, and what it shows is something that people tend to ignore, especially retail investors. Not hype, not influencers, not narratives, but policy alignment. Projects sitting at the intersection of government attention, ETF potential, and US influence. And historically, that's where the biggest money flows. And as I said, sometimes in crypto we need to follow the big money. So first of all, the hidden comeback behind crypto. Most people think crypto markets move randomly, but they don't. They move in cycles of attention, cycles of liquidity and regulation. And the United States is still the largest capital market in the world. When the US government starts paying attention to certain projects, funds follow, institutions follow, and eventually retail follows last, unfortunately. Right now, in the middle of this chart, we see projects like Chainlink, Solana, XRP, and Cardano. These four you must hold at least one or two in your portfolio. These projects sit in the overlap of multiple categories: government toolkit, ETF narratives, White House engagement, political mentions. That intersection is very, very powerful because it means these projects are not just technology anymore, they're becoming infrastructure. And when something becomes infrastructure, it usually doesn't disappear just like this, but it attracts.
Which is very important. In crypto, we want to be dominant. We want to be dominant in everything we do.
Then you have the Made in USA narrative. Another major section of this chart shows the US aligned projects. And here are projects like Uniswap, Algorand, The Graph, Optimism, Stacks. This matters because a regulatory shift is happening. Governments increasingly prefer projects that are transparent, compliant, audible, and politically acceptable, which means certain projects will receive less resistance when things are moving forward. And that reduces the biggest risk in crypto regulation. So definitely keep your eyes. I don't have any of these five, but there are also other projects that are in the Made in the US category that you can see here on. And some of these actually overlap. You can see here on CoinGecko made by USA projects, and focus your attention on some of those as well. You can find them on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, available there. Now, if we move on to the next layer, which is the institutional narratives, the institutional layer, projects that are tied to institutional narratives. We have two obvious ones, Bitcoin and Ethereum. These are now fully institutional assets: pension funds, ETFs, asset managers. The interesting part is what sits next to them, right next to them, projects like Avalanche, Polkadot, and HBAR. These are networks designed for enterprise and institutional use. And if institutions expand beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum, these are types of ecosystems they often explore next. So if you're holding one of these three, you're already in a good position. Then we have the White House attention, another category in the image that shows blockchains projects that have attended White House discussions. These are projects like Sui, Aptos, Near, Filecoin. This might seem boring, but it's actually extremely important because it means these teams are in the room. And in policy, being in the room really matters. Discussions are often shaped by the people present in those conversations. And there is one project that is missing on this list, and I would personally add here. Of course, there is more even say, but I'm thinking of Caspa. Caspa represents something the market always rediscovers every cycle, and that's pure technology advantage: fast block DAG architecture, high throughput, very strong community, and most importantly, it still sits in a phase where the majority of investors don't fully understand it yet. And historically, these are the projects that explode when this narrative and liquidity finally arrives. So definitely I think Casper is a good project to hold as well, plus Say as well. I think Say should be in the category of in the institutional use projects next to Polkadot, Avalanche, and HBAR. There is a lot of institutional interest and stable coins being built on Say. But at this stage it is missing. I would add these two to the list as well. The problem is that retail investors buy after narratives become obvious, after the pumps, after the headlines, after the YouTube thumbnails, but the real money is made during the boring phases. The phases where price moves sideways, the phase where people are fearful, where sentiment is fear or neutral. This is where accumulation happens. And we are in one of those stages right now, and I want to further reiterate how important it is on every dip right now that you see an opportunity to accumulate. Because if you have a long-term strategy, you would be thankful to yourself very, very soon. Instead of chasing hype, you can, and myself, I personally prefer a much simpler strategy. Have policy, identify projects, focus yourself on projects that have policy alignment, strong infrastructure rules, institutional narratives, and active development. And then do one simple thing: buy the dips. Buy the dips. Slowly, calmly, patiently, over time, not in one go. Every dip you see, while we are in a fearful sentiment, that's a gift to you. Because when this cycle starts to, and the bull run starts to unfold, the capital that flows into crypto will be far larger than the previous cycle. And when liquidity floods in, it doesn't search randomly. It flows into strongest networks first, like these projects you see on this list over here. Crypto is not chaos like most people think. If you step back, you will start seeing patterns. You'll start seeing government attention, institutional adoption, infrastructure networks. Those signals are often visible years before the big moves happen. And the investors who win are the ones who accumulate before the crowd notices, not after. So that's why I want to encourage you on every dip right now, while the sentiment is fearful, make sure you are accumulating. And wait for later this year and 2027. That's from me today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.